GOP senators who took part in the bipartisan Senate negotiations for the bipartisan infrastructure deal, the deal that only includes physical infrastructure like roads and bridges, they're having a hard time getting the 10 Republicans necessary in the Senate to vote in favor of that bill so it can pass. So this is different from the reconciliation version of the bill. The reconciliation version, which costs about $3.5 trillion, includes all the goodies that we really want, the human infrastructure components of Biden's proposal. That, if it passes, could pass with just a simple majority in the Senate. This bill, because Biden's obsessed with the illusion of bipartisanship, needs a total of 60 senators to vote in favor of it. And despite the fact that the bipartisan negotiations took place and they seemed to be successful, they reached a deal, the GOP can't find a total of 10 Republican senators to vote in favor of it. Why? Because they don't want to increase taxes. So there's a very good chance that the bipartisan bill fails. And to be quite honest with you, considering the scheme to privatize $100 billion worth of public infrastructure, I think I'll be fine with that. In fact, I would like to see the bipartisan bill fail, and I would like Democrats to just completely brush off the GOP in the Senate and get a more robust version of the infrastructure bill passed through reconciliation. But no, they wasted all their time with this garbage, and I want to give you the details. So conservative groups have begun a pressure campaign to scuttle a crackdown on tax cheats by the Internal Revenue Service that proponents say could produce as much as $100 billion to help pay for the plan. Now, this is something that we've talked about on the show before. The Biden administration initially called for funding the IRS or increasing funding to the IRS to the tune of $80 billion. And the whole idea is, look, there's a bunch of wealthy people who are dodging their taxes, they're evading their taxes. If we just invest a little more into the IRS, we can ensure that people are paying their fair share of taxes, particularly those at the highest brackets, those who have the more complicated tax filings that the IRS would need additional resources to audit. But unfortunately, we have the Grover Norquists of the world who have dedicated their entire adult lives in cutting taxes for the rich and ensuring that lawmakers keep taxes low for the wealthy. So he has already begun threatening Republican lawmakers, and I would argue that this is unfortunately persuading Republican lawmakers to vote against the bill. Norquist says, quote, "This is going to be a real vulnerability now until election day. If you put your fingerprints on audit more, everyone who gets audited, fairly or unfairly, is going to think you did this to me. Your fingerprints are on the murder weapon." Okay, so I don't know, I would venture to say that Republican voters, the vast majority of whom are not incredibly wealthy, the majority of whom dutifully pay their taxes every year, are not going to hold Republican lawmakers accountable if they finally fund the IRS to ensure that tax cheats at the very top of the tax brackets end up paying their fair share. I don't know, I might be wrong, right? But I have a feeling that the populist rhetoric used by the Tucker Carlsons of the world are being used for a reason. That Republican audience is sick and tired of the elites getting away with not paying their taxes, getting treated as individuals who are just above the law, who don't have to pay their fair share. But doesn't matter, Grover Norquist's threats terrify Republican lawmakers, and I'm sure some Democratic lawmakers as well. Norquist said that his weekly meeting with conservatives in Washington, a power center during the George Bush and Barack Obama presidencies, has grown as it went virtual during the pandemic. And just to give you a little taste of how influential Norquist is, I mean, he's doing weekly meetings with conservative lawmakers. How insane is that? Senator Jerry Moran, a Republican, says this: "It bothers lots of Republicans, and I'd like to have lots of Republicans vote for this. So I hope it can be something modified, narrowed, or different." Yeah, let me unpack that for you. Let me decode that for you. Can we find a way to ensure that the wealthiest tax evaders can continue evading their taxes? Because with an underfunded IRS, all of the focus for audits has been on lower income working Americans because it's easier to audit them. You don't need as many resources to do it. So the system is intentionally set up to put lower income individuals at a disadvantage, just like everything else in our economic system as it stands today, and essentially allow the wealthy to get away with tax evasion, literally criminal tax evasion, because the IRS doesn't have the funding necessary to do the proper audits and investigations. I don't know, I feel like conservative voters wouldn't find it unpopular to provide additional funding to the IRS to make sure that these tax dodgers pay their fair share. But Grover Norquist not only has these meetings, he's also a donor. And so when push comes to shove, these GOP lawmakers are gonna be far more concerned about their corporate donors than passing a bipartisan version of the infrastructure deal. And again, if it does fail, number one, Democrats wasted their time. Joe Biden wasted his time in engaging in these bad faith negotiations. So let's put that aside. But number two, if it does fail, great. Then let's recalibrate the situation and pass a robust version of the infrastructure deal. Don't deal with the Republicans anymore and just get it done. Get it done through reconciliation where you don't need a single Republican to vote in favor of it. But again, that other obstacle is still in the way, and that is the corporate Democrats, people like Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, Mark Warner, they don't like raising taxes on the wealthy either. But I think that Democrats might be more easy to convince or persuade than these Republicans who don't want to help Biden out at all when it comes to his agenda, and certainly care far more about protecting their corporate donors and low income tax for those very corporate donors.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.